Well, hello and thank you for joining me for another ITY video with top Australian and international executives. Today I have with me Ross Dawson. He is the Chairman of Advanced Human Technologies and a noted futurist and keynote speaker. Welcome to the program, Ross.
Real pleasure to be here, Alex.
Now, we're here today at CeBIT. You can see the banner behind us, and this is CeBIT Australia 2016, and you are today's closing keynote speaker. What's the topic of your speech?
The topic is platform strategy, how to create exponential value. So the theme is, I suppose, looking at platforms as really a real artifact which is supporting the growth of the economy today, and looking at the ideas behind this. And I suppose going on beyond this platforms is not just platforms as we know them with Uber and Airbnb and so on, but how this is creating the potential. Well, this is a real, basis on which we are building exponential businesses.
Sure. So let's start at the beginning and seek out what is the definition of a platform and some other examples beyond, you mentioned Uber, of course everybody knows, but let's start with the definition, your definition.
So a platform enables value-creating interactions between others. So it is all about external value creation. So this is a real shift in value, saying moving on from an organization which creates value for its customers to be able to say it enables the interactions between producers, between consumers of anything from products to services to reviews to apps to lending to money and so on.
Yeah, I was going to say the concept of bartering for caveman would have been the first sort of mental platform. I can do this and you can do that for me, and then of course when we had money, well, that took away the need to barter direct things.
Well, absolutely. So platform is the money. Absolutely, yeah. It is a unit exchange. It enables people to interact directly. So this is the idea now. But technology, now the information technologies have enabled these platforms to be the fundamental mechanism which transcends the single organization, as saying the bank or the manufacturer or the supply chain or the supermarket, whatever has been the way everybody goes to the organizations creating the opportunity for people to do it for themselves, to transact directly. But the issue is that platform is where so much value is created. Be able to design and implement that is really the shape of the evolving economy today.
Sure, and of course, I suppose one of the key things for today's platform is the fact we all have smartphones upon which we run apps, and we can do so many of those things there. And to be able to cope with the billions of these smart devices out there, you've got to have scalability. So, what are you going to talk about when you talk about how we've been able to scale these platforms and have them be reliable?
So, first thing is simply that we have phones. So the vast majority of people in developing countries now have smartphones. One of the big shifts we're seeing today is that there is going to be another 2.5 billion more people with smartphones in the next 5 years.
And that's their primary computing platform, isn't it? They've sort of skipped past computers and laptops.
So that means they all have interface, they all have the access to this. So this changes the whole structure. Again, this changed the structure of the economy when the value creation is moving away from this hub and spoke, the old way of doing business, to where the platforms are enabling those connections. Anyone with a smartphone can participate in these information-enabled platforms. So this shift will be particularly prominent in developing countries, where just as they're leapfrogging with smartphones and never having had the fixed connectivity, they're again leapfrogging the type ways in which business is being done to making this community, extended business model as the primary platform which will enable these developing countries to grow far more rapidly than we've seen for developing countries today.
Sure. And with smartphones, they basically create more or less a mesh network. They're with individual people as opposed to people having to go to somewhere, like with the spoken hub thing that you mentioned before. And on top of that, these smartphones are enabling a platform with a natural user interface, because we can talk to our devices now. They can see things, and you can see other people through live streaming. And so, I guess this platform has never been more human.
So I believe one of the big unfolding issues today is interfaces. So we're seeing exponential growth in data, in bandwidth, in processing power. Now the issue is that it's not just the explosion of capabilities of machines, it is the fact that the interfaces between humans and machines are becoming immeasurably better than we were. Moving on from your QWERTY keyboard and your mouse, your screen, through to virtual reality, augmented reality, voice interfaces, gesture, thought interfaces even.
Well, how soon before we have cybernetic, thought driven platforms.
Well, we're just seeing the
decade
beginning of these emerging today. So
Yeah.
there's a few such as Motive, which came out of Australia, providing a thought interface to gaming platforms. There's a number of other participants in that market now, and it's still relatively early on, just using EEG to be able to, I suppose, use brain training
Sure.
control interfaces.
I mean,
but we are getting to the next phase now. We're very close to where we can have richer and richer interfaces to actually have rich, complex thinking control our machines.
Sure. I mean, I always like to tell people that for all our advancement, we still live in the black and white era of technology, and it's still some distance away before we get to that color era. And then even when you get to the color era, I mean, you got to get to the HD era, and then the 4K era, and then the 8K era. and I know that's where we are now with television.
3D and
all of that.
Immersive, yes.
So I mean, we've got all that in technology, but still, it's like we're still in the black and white age. And which is one of the things that must make your job as a futurist so exciting. I mean, it's just so many things happening all the time.
Absolutely. So, I always I predicted that now would be a great time to be a futurist, and I was right. But what we're seeing, I still get my mind boggled every day,
Yeah.
just in terms of the pace of what's going on. So the issue is, a lot of people are across a lot of the technologies coming forward. The issue
Sure.
is making sense of that.
Yeah.
This vast information overload, and be able to make sense of it. The tools of the futurist are the ones which are not necessarily always about looking for the wild and wacky,
Yeah.
but being able to say, well, all right, what does that mean for us today? And that's really the core of my job and the role as the futurist.
Sure. Now, where can people find out more, not only about this keynote and some of the slides you'll share, but just more about Ross Dawson?
So rossdawson.com has the generally resources around what I do, a lot of videos, a lot of content, a
People
lot of
can book
slides.
you there for keynote speeches, for example.
Yeah,
if they
that's
wanted
right.
to.
And also Ross Dawson blog has, including the slides from my
So that's
speech today at CeBIT.
rossdawsonblog.com.
Yes, right. rossdawson.com for the general view, and Ross Dawson blog for some more detailed content.
Excellent. So, anything else you can tell us about the future of the platform? We delved into cybernetics, but anything that might be real in 5 years or just even next year?
So I think we're looking at the edge of the future, as it were.
Yeah.
A lot of it is in this distributed value creation, and that's one way of thinking about platforms are enablers of distributed value creation.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not new per se, but now this is becoming a fundamental platform for the economy. So that's one of the reasons I'm so excited about blockchain, and we're seeing this is something where the concepts behind blockchain and the way in which this is now manifested are enabling this distributed value creation. Again, moving beyond this institution at the middle towards the edges. One of the biggest shifts we are seeing is moving from power of institutions to power of individuals. And so we're seeing these blockchain and the rise of, for example, distributed autonomous organizations as manifestations of how we're seeing distributed value creation.
And on this whole topic of blockchain, people are saying that the true value of the Bitcoin creation wasn't the Bitcoin, but it was the blockchain. Just for those, I mean, I know people are typing into Google, but what's the short definition of what a blockchain is, or how it differs from what we've done before?
So a blockchain is simply a distributed ledger.
Mm-hmm.
So it is wherever there is a transaction, there is a record of that, but that record is maintained everywhere around the world. So it is completely auditable, it's completely secure, and you can, in fact, mean there is no central repository for this information. That information is distributed. So this then becomes a tool for distributed value creation in any number of ways.
You wonder if politics could be run through a blockchain.
Well,
for example.
that's actually something which is of great interest to me.
Yeah.
And again, if we look at where the power of platforms could go, I think there's a few fundamental ones. One is for education as a platform. Again, this is a shift from institutions to individuals. So education, we already started to see that with Coursera and Udacity and edX and a whole lot of platforms, essentially, which where providers of educational content and consumers of educational content can now be matched with a lot of leading universities around the world participating in that. But we can also look at different ways in which platforms can transform education on all sorts of levels, from this peer education where somebody with a particular learning style or different way of approaching it can find somebody else that has worked something out with the same kind of mindset.
Yeah.
And you're starting to you have education as a platform. We can see cities as platforms for innovation. They are enablers. They don't, it's again, the cities and the city governments don't actually do it. They are enablers. They're providing the platform to enable those and other things, creators and consumers of innovation, to be able to platforms, and absolutely government. can be a platform, and government should be a platform. Again, government shouldn't be an institution which we pay lots of tax dollars to, and then they try to work out how to spend it well, which of course they never do very well. To be able to say, well, government is an enabler of how do we create the value creating interactions within society that can create the better society that we all want, which I guarantee will be far more efficient and far better results than the government systems that we have today. So this is difficult to shift.
Yeah.
But I absolutely believe we're looking at the future, and we're looking at the future of platforms, that government should be a platform enabler of social participation in creating the value that we want.
As Winston Churchill has said that democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others, but this could be the thing that usurps democracy to be something better. So let's hope so. This blockchain. I mean, it's perhaps in the world of Star Trek they may not have thought of it, but that could have been technology that was giving them effectively their Star Trek style utopia. I mean, I'm just delving crazily into the future, but I'd love to see it happen. I'm sure you would too. So what are some of the other, you must get this question all the time, but what are some of the other top trends that you see for the rest of the decade? And what is the future as you see it beyond platforms, beyond the blockchains and other things? We talk about VR and drones and all those sorts of things. What are your comments on that?
So just expand, I've already said this, around interfaces.
Yeah.
The interfaces between humans and machine, that is absolutely a fundamental shift in,
it is an
enabler.
Shift, isn't it?
Yeah, so this is where this is a enabler of humans. Technology is an enabler of humans rather than simply just a tool that we use. It is the augmentation of humans. It is beginning in various ways of becoming cyborgs.
Yeah.
In some very obvious ways, where we have prosthetics which are intelligent, able to do that, through the ones where we're using technology as tools to be able to enhance what we do.
And augment the power of the mind.
Yeah, well, exactly. And so one of the key things here is around shifting work, the future of work, and I believe that whilst this is now very squarely on the agenda in the last year or two, there's governments and organizations and citizens, concerned individuals worried about whether their jobs will be automated. So this is now on the agenda. The very fundamental way to think about that, we must be thinking as how do humans and machines together create more than either can do part.
Yes.
So
exactly.
This is not about saying, this is what humans do, let's take in a machine to do that.
Yes.
It's like saying, how do we have humans and machines working together? So there's a great analog of that, where in 1998, Garry Kasparov, the first chess grandmaster, that was beaten by a computer.
Yeah.
Now, today we have a field which is called advanced chess, where humans and machines collaborate, which can in fact beat the best machine and the best human.
Right.
So this is a space where we're seeing more and more examples where humans and machines working together. So this is as much a human endeavor as it is a technological endeavor.
Yes.
But this is where, again, technology is human tools, and I think we have to frame it. There are vast risks in the future of work.
Yes.
It is possible that we will have significant technological unemployment.
Yeah.
But I think if we understand that risk and we look and design how we can create that better, and amongst other things say how do we create greater value with humans and machines together than they can do individually, we have a very good chance of creating a more prosperous world where humans can express more of their potential and live more of the lives they choose. This is the forking paths. Where, as again, the role of the future is hopefully to alert people, to get people to think about that, think about it the right way, so that we're making the right decision today, so that we can shape those better futures and hopefully avoid some of the less gloomy futures that could happen.
Yeah, it's the antidote to the Terminator scenario. I often joke about how, if we're going to make robots, we need to have a kill switch, but we shouldn't need to have a kill switch because we designed them from the word go to be working with us to make us and them better. Yes. And if we don't, we'll end up in some sort of technological matrix cyber war, which would be a terrible waste of both human life and technological life, as it were. Yes. So I hope that never happens, and I hope the future you talk about is the one that ultimately comes into being. And of course, talking about it now, and as you say, shaping it is the way to make that happen. So I always like to sort of change gears a little bit and just ask you about the best piece of advice you've ever received and to help you get you where you are today.
I think
becoming a futurist may have been a good piece of advice.
I drew that up myself, I think. But Gregory Bateson is one of the great philosophers of the last century, and I was actually trying to find the exact words the quotable words, which I couldn't find. But essentially what he said is that we must look from multiple perspectives.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate in that my father got a job in the UN, so almost all my schooling was the International School of Geneva,
Wow.
and where there were 65 nationalities there, and I kind of grew up with all of this diversity around me, and I suppose that was a bit intrinsic. But this, I think that advice, that frame, saying never think about it from one perspective. You may, whatever you think, you've got to add other perspectives to that.
Yeah.
And so it's and I am very. I use myself as reference. I often believe that I'm right.
Yeah, yeah.
But I suppose is what I've tried to take on board is saying, no, you've always got to continue. Look at and in particular, the people that absolutely disagree are the best, most useful people you can find.
Yeah.
And so looking for that diversity of opinion, the multiple perspectives, the people that see it from a completely different perspective. Indeed over everything which we've just discussed. I'm sure that there are some rich other opinions, I suppose, or other issues we've talked about. And I guess that's the fundamental thing which I've always tried to take on board, is always seek for and bring on those multiple perspectives.
Yeah, no, that's a rich piece of advice. Now, you were recently in India. I know you get to travel the world to give keynote speeches and to share your knowledge. So what were you in India for? I saw it on Facebook, one of your Facebook friends, and I saw you were there. So what were you doing there, and what's technology like in India compared to what we see every day here in Australia or in the US or elsewhere?
So I was speaking at a Ericsson event to, in fact, the leadership of all of the mobile operators in India.
Yeah.
So fantastic audience, an incredible point. So we've just reached the point where there's 1 billion mobile subscriptions in India.
Wow.
So that's doing pretty well in
Puts
terms of
Australia's 27 million into perspective, doesn't it?
And I guess I must say that I've always had India as a reference point in saying, well, the prices are unimaginably low from a developed country perspective, but they can actually do it. They are able to do that, and I think, well,
and make a profit.
Yeah, well, that's right. And there is a reference point. In fact, they are quite profitable.
Yeah.
There is a reference point for developed countries in saying, well, what is a fair or reasonable cost for connectivity.
Yeah.
But the point now, so there's now, I'm not sure the exact figure, but in the order of 200 million smartphones in India. There was, in fact, recently a $7 smartphone that was announced.
I think I hear.
And so this is the sort of thing where, yes, it's going to take a while to even reach 500 million smartphones in India, but not that far. We've got another, as I said, around 2.5 billion more smartphone users in the world in the next 5 years, and probably around 500 million or so of those will be in India. And so this is an absolute transformation. This is where the 900 million of India's 1.2 odd billion people are rural.
Yeah.
And so there's a completely different structure of the economy. Already they're enabled by information around the cost of things and be able to do things and be able to sell things.
Markets,
exactly right.
Yeah.
Now the smartphones are giving an opportunity. And again, already more than half of those people, so around 800 million people, do not have a bank account.
Yeah.
So they can't get insurance, and so there's some incredible initiatives being able to give simple insurance to people so that they can take a risk with their crops, for example, being able to potentially double what they can bring home to their family without being able to, whilst not being able to give them the risk of starvation.
That's it.
So these simple financial tools can absolutely, on smartphone platforms, transform this extraordinary growing economy. India is an amazing place, and it's wonderful to see that it's expressing far more of its potential than it has over the last decade or two.
Absolutely. Well, look, I know you have to go soon, and I've got to check out the show floor myself, but do you have any final messages for IT Wire viewers and readers and for the global Ross Dawson audience?
Oh, I think I just want to go back to the platform strategies.
Yeah,
platforms are so fundamental. And I think this is it's interesting because it ties together so much that I've looked at over my, the books that I've written and the work that I've done over a couple of decades now in terms of knowledge-based relationships and living networks and enterprise too and crowdsourcing and so on. But it is around this way of, it is about external value creation, but it's around how do you create massive value and take an appropriate share of that value. And I think so much of what is emerging in terms of what I've designed and you'll be able to see in my slides for the platform strategy, is this framework and an approach and think, say, let's think in terms of platform so that we can not just create massive value, but take a big, a share of that value which we can create for ourselves.
Well, Ross, I look forward to seeing your keynote later this afternoon. And when it's available for people to watch, I'll put a link to it in your story. I'll probably write a new one. Thank you very much and best of luck.
Thank you. Great pleasure to speak with you, Alex.
Thank you.